They said it was impossible. Heating a frozen barracks in the dead of winter, without chopping wood, without burning fuel, and get this, without an actual fire. But in World War II, resourcefulness wasn't optional. It was survival. And somewhere between desperation and genius, soldiers and civilians discovered a trick so effective it almost feels like cheating physics, using nothing but stones to warm a room like a hidden stove. No, this isn't science fiction. It's a real method, documented, tested, and quietly passed down like a secret handshake. Today, we're bringing it back. Welcome to Legacy of Survival. And this is the WWII Stone Stove Hack that defies common sense. A world at war. A winter that didn't care. During World War II, the battlefield wasn't just bullets, bombs and borders. It was cold, brutal, bone-splitting cold. Soldiers froze in trenches, civilians huddled in basements, entire towns lost access to fuel when supply lines collapsed. In Eastern Europe and Scandinavia especially, temperatures dropped so low that blankets felt like thin sheets of paper. So, when the firewood ran out, when wet forests refused to burn, people turned to the earth itself. Stones, the simplest, most overlooked resource in existence. This is where it starts getting interesting. Because stones aren't just stones, they're storage devices, not for memories, for heat. Here's the basic premise, broken down for clarity and maximum usefulness. Heat a specific kind of stone. Not lava hot, not glowing red, just hot enough that you can't hold it. Then place those stones strategically inside a room. The stones release slow, even radiant heat for hours, warming anyone nearby. The method uses thermal mass. A fancy word, but don't let it scare you off. It simply means stones hold heat better than wood, metal, or air. And during the war, when fuel was scarce, this single advantage changed the game. To make it work, you needed three things: hot stones, a metal container, or some kind of improvised chamber, and a method to retain heat safely and, distribute it slowly. No matchsticks? No problem. If people had even a tiny flame, some coals, or just the leftovers of a fire, they could heat the stones. In some cases, stones were heated using diesel fumes or exhaust pipes from vehicles. Not glamorous, definitely not ideal. But survival isn't about perfection, it's about what works. This trick literally bought people time. Time to sleep without shivering, time to treat frostbite, time to gather strength for the next day. And here's where the genius gets deeper. Not all stones are created equal. If you're thinking you can just grab any rock and toss it in a fire, stop. That's how you get an exploding rock and, well, a trip to the hospital. Khund survivors learned this the hard way. The safest stones come from dry riverbeds, granite fields, or old masonry. Porous stones like sandstone absorbed water. Heat them up and they pop like grenades. Smooth, dense stones were the champions. They heated evenly and cooled slowly. Think of them as the battery banks of the past. The trick wasn't to cook them in flames until glowing. It was about steady, controlled heating. Too hot and the stone cracks. Too cold and you're just staring at a warm pebble. The sweet spot was hot enough to radiate, but stable enough to handle. Let's say you're in a stone cottage in 1942 Norway. You've got a handful of granite stones and a metal cauldron. You set the stones in the embers of last night's fire. Slowly, patiently, they heat up. You transfer them, using tongs or rags, to the cauldron. Then you move the cauldron into a room, ideally near the floor, where cold air sinks. Some setups used a little water. Not boiling. The water wasn't the star. It was the humidity. Dry winter air pulls heat away from you. Humidity helps the warmth cling to the room like a blanket. So picture a metal bucket, stones inside, a little water sizzling softly. The stones heat the water. The water becomes steam. The air stops feeling like a knife to the lungs. Again, this wasn't luxury. This was survival. A place at the edge of civilization where technology couldn't follow. A proper stone stove took this further. You'd stack stones inside a metal drum or chimney pipe. The drum had a vent. Heated stones inside created a convection current. Warm air rises, cold air sinks. The drum pulls cold air in, heats it as it passes over the stones, and pushes warm air out the top. It's like a primitive space heater. No electricity, no moving parts, just physics and grit. And when soldiers returned from the front lines to civilian life, some brought the knowledge with them. Farmhouses used it during harsh winters. Remote villages taught it to their children. But as technology marched forward, the method faded. Forgotten, buried under thermostats, propane heaters, and the assumption that survival skills were a relic of the past. Turns out they were a preview of the future. Because today, when natural gas prices spike, when storms knock out power grids, when disaster relief takes days, not hours, this trick matters again. In a crisis, the modern world becomes, well, fragile. Flip a switch, nothing happens. Turn a dial, no heat. The systems we trust vanish like breath in winter air. But stones don't glitch. Stones don't run out of battery. Stones don't depend on a government office to approve fuel shipments. They do their job, quietly, every single time. This is why the WWII Stone Stove is more than a story. It's a blueprint. The method is accessible, you know. You can test it in a backyard, on a camping trip, or in a powerless house. One heated stone won't transform your life. But 5, 10, maybe even a drum full. You can raise room temperature enough to survive a freezing night. And that might be all you need. Whenever we talk about survival techniques from World War II, we have to remember this. They didn't do these things for fun. They didn't do it for YouTube views or weekend camping adventures. They did it because frostbite was waiting outside the door. Because warmth was the difference between life and death. We explore these skills not to romanticize the struggle, but to honor the knowledge, to carry it forward, to make sure when things get hard, really hard, the past has our back. Final thoughts. The Stone Stove Hack is more than a quirky wartime invention. It's a reminder that solutions often come from the simplest places, not from laboratories or factories, from a riverbed, from the ground beneath your boots. Heat the stones, shelter the heat. Let the past teach you how to survive the future. If you want to see more forgotten survival methods from history, real techniques, real context and real respect, then you're in the right place. This is Legacy of Survival, where knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. Subscribe for more, like if you learned something new. Share this video with someone who might need it someday. Because skills fade when we stop talking about them. Let's keep them alive.